Welcome back to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today we are talking with Daman Sood, and we are talking about safeguarding organizations from insider threats. Daman, the first two segments, great, lots of interesting information here. I really hope people are paying attention. But the next question is probably a big one to answer. How do you assess insider risk?
It's a good one once again. Alex, and very serious one as well. What I mean to say when I say serious, that again, even if I admitted that it is a new topic to me to go that deep. People risk might have been written in all risk registers, even in our BCM journey. But perhaps we didn't go that deep. We just left people risk. To me, there are multiple categories of people risks, and today we are able to focus only one of those, which is insider risk or threats. To manage, we will need to understand what harm can I do as an insider. We discussed that earlier. So quickly, that I can damage. It may be damage to reputation. It may be financial damage. It may be some breakage. I may be able to pass. I can pass some information to someone else. What information or what harm to what? To some assets. Even information is an asset in an organization. So that's the starting point when you say assessing this insider risk. Please allow me to share my screen and I'll talk
Sure.
based on that. I hope you can see it.
I can? Yes.
Great. So I've attempted to write these steps here and I'll repeat. Starting point starting point is to understand my assets. What assets do I have? And organizations may not know this. If they know, this may not be the latest information. So to have your asset register with the value of that asset, then only I'm able to do the risk assessment, right? So identify critical assets, recognize assets and systems critical for effective operation or of specific organizational value. What is the value of this asset for me, the organization? Engage stakeholder group, involve a suitable organization-wide stakeholder, and some other day we'll talk about stakeholder is called interested party now, which is very interesting. It's much more than stakeholder, by the way. So stakeholder groups with specialist insight to support the identification of critical assets. So not everyone can do that. IT may be able to do for IT assets, but facilities or admin may be able to do for those physical infrastructure assets that we have. Then someone has to talk about information knowledge as well. Then categorize these assets based on their level of criticality to the business. Just like we two being in the same organization, the value that we bring into the organization is not same, may not be same, or the amount of risk that we pose to the organization may not be same. We both are assets for the organization. So that has to be done, I'm repeating, based on their level of criticality to the business. And I'll just repeat here that not only asset, an object, even people need to be evaluated for their value or their criticality to the business. Then identify various threats to the organization's critical assets, specifically focusing on insider risk in this module. So the topic that we have picked up for today's discussions. Understand threat versus risk to differentiate, to be able to differentiate between threat and risk and how they inform the insider risk assessment. Next step would be assessing vulnerability in the organization's systems and processes that could be exploited by threat actors, including vulnerability of people. Once again, we need to look at people management. Keeping people happy is very close to insider risk management. We will be able to manage only first if we have done the assessment. That's what the question is. Then gather threat information, obtain threat advice from reliable sources. So sources need to be reliable. That's where Daman's thermometer will come into picture to check what we are getting, what we are understanding, needs to be coming from reliable sources. And then develop security risks, specific and detailed security risks for effective prioritization. So this is a cycle that I have attempted to develop for insider risk assessment. This is assessment only. Next step would be mitigation or controls.
I have a question about it. Are you evaluating the person or are you evaluating the role?
The role, yes, exactly. You're right. Not the person.
So is that what you mean by, how did you put it in your role-based risk assessment?
Exactly. That's what I meant there. Yes.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is people get all upset. Oh my God, I'm being evaluated for this and that. It's more of the role and
It's
then
the role.
trying to find the gaps or the vulnerabilities, or the sensitive information Daman
Exactly.
has.
Exactly. Exactly.
Daman has access to
Yes.
all these systems. Does he really need it?
So we do. Yes. So the concept is called RBRA, role-based risk assessment.
So when you do that and you've got your findings, what do you do with them?
Let me once again attempt to answer. It's a little long way, but
Yeah,
with the help of one slide.
sure.
So I'll share my slide once again.
The reason I'm asking is you could have a list now of all these critical roles,
Yes.
moderate roles, or easy target roles, so to speak.
Yes. Yes.
What do you do with that list now?
Exactly. So we see this pyramid.
Yes.
This organizational pyramid has been seen for hundreds of years, perhaps for decades. At the top, we have the top, the top management leadership, then middle management, and at the lower level, the masses. And there has been a joke. I have been narrating that least number of people at the top, which means least work at the top, maximum number of people at the bottom, which means the maximum work at the bottom, but maximum payouts at the top and least payouts at the bottom. So that a joke, but in the reality, the top has the highest authorities and has the greater risk too. If any of the top management gets involved in an insider act, and we discussed one case, a live case happening in India for last 1 month or
Mhm.
so, if any of the top management gets involved in an insider act, the amount or severity of damage will be very high. Hence, a role-based risk assessment, in short, RBRA, that is also a concept. So while recruiting a senior person through background checking, thorough background checking will be required, better references will be sought compared to middle management or lower management. The background check has to be stricter, thorough. Such roles will need to be protected from multiple angles: physical, cyber, and personal security measures. I'm joining as a CEO or I'm a CEO. I have access to highest information level of information, most valued information of the organization. So that's why that political leaders, for example, if not anyone else, but in some organizations, even the CEOs or top management may be provided extra security, extra physical security at home, on the road. We see the long number of cars before and after the political leader from, for example, the prime minister or the president of the country, because they have access to great valued asset of the organization, information of the organization. In this case, organization means the country. So such roles will need to be protected from multiple angles. Their physical security, their cyber security, their personal security measures need to be very strong.
I know myself, I cannot count how many background checks I've had performed on me because being a third-party contractor or
Right.
consultant going into places, yeah, we'd love to have you come on board, but Art, can we do a background check? It's like, yes, I could probably tell you what's in there and know exactly what
Right.
you're gonna get, but
Right.
you know,
And one of my recent experiences, which was about 2 years ago, Alex, when I was about to join a new organization. Everything else was easy. When I say easy means quick, smooth. But the last step was before I would start working. Offer has been made, but before I start working, there would be a background check
Mhm.
also. It could take a month. It did take a month.
Yeah, they
This
can
is
take a
this is
while.
at my level, your level. So think if it's a CEO or if you are thinking of prime minister or president of the country, what else could be done?
Well, that brings up an interesting point now, because you mentioned the, physical security and cybersecurity. Some of the safeguards have to be, I don't want to say upgraded, but really looked into to make sure they're there
Right.
because of what the
Yeah.
information that these people know or carry with them.
Right.
What kind of things in a background check would uh, what kind of be in how do I want to word it so it doesn't sound too bad. But if you've got someone on that top level and you're doing a background check, what are some of the flags that would stand up saying, hey, this does not look good on our insider risk assessment?
Right.
Something that would stand out. What kind of things would we look for?
So I would like to answer like this, Alex, that let's not look at the level of the person yet.
Okay.
Anyone joining and what check should be performed on him or her. So almost all would be performed for the top level also, only that severity may increase. We may
Mm,
like to do thorough checks. We may like to do rather than three references, perhaps five references, for example. And then the type of references also may change, but it still be a reference check. So I've got a list I would like to read from that.
okay.
That is screening, if you call it screening or background check. Check whether the person is entitled to work legally. Sometimes between countries also, whether I'm allowed to legally work in Canada or you're allowed legally to work in India. That's one of the checks on that. Then check whether the person really holds the required and admitted skills. You said the one should be, for example, experience in organizational resilience. And I said I am in my CV or profile, I'm saying that. But am I really? So that check needs to be done. On
Mm,
the skills required and admitted. Next check could be career references, which I just said. You may ask one, you may ask two. At senior levels, you may like to ask three. But which three also? The one you are joining, assume as head of organizational resilience. Then my companies assume I'm in top 100 of the country. The person should be from top 100 of the companies. I'm not looking at someone coming from top 500 companies. Right? So the level of check, the degree of check is varying based on the seniority of the role, but check is same either for junior or the senior person. Check criminal records, so police verification, whether the one has been involved earlier into any of these, even if just what do we call it? I'm not able to get that word correctly. Whether I have been just accused or I have been proved to be involved in some criminal activity. Both are different, but both are of interest. 99% people are not even accused. Why was Daman accused? Let's go deep into that based on that. Check employment history. Whatever I'm saying, I have worked or you asked for that Daman should have worked, whether that is done. Then check whether the person has a solid financial history. I'm a financially weak. I'm an easy target for someone who is looking for some information by paying me some money, how high amount of money. Then validity of documents, my passport, visas, etc. And the social media access also. We touched upon that. So quickly, I'll
mm.
say what I'm writing in social media may give some insights into my mind and my heart, and then the person can attempt to lure me.
We've only got about 2.5, 3 minutes left, but I couldn't help but think of one more question. Who should be involved with these assessments? Because I know we talked about resilience professionals, business continuity, but what you just talked about, I can't help but think that human resources would be involved with this. Are there other groups that might want to be involved with this, or what
So
are your
human
thoughts there?
resources first, because we are talking of people.
Right.
Insider is a person. So HR comes into picture immediately. But HR may say that we do not know risk management as much as risk management head would know. So risk management comes into picture. But why should we do this? Because it could become a business continuity issue. So perhaps BCM comes into picture. But we see because of this person, there may be not a financial loss, but reputational loss. So perhaps whoever in the company does PR, public relations, they come into picture. It may be communications, right? So it seems it's a combination of all. Because it's risk, it may be headed by risk. The activity may be headed by risk, but HR is the starting point. Yes, I agree with you.
I guess the trick would be too, if you're evaluating your all the insiders you have, how do you evaluate the evaluators? You know, if
Say that
HR
again,
is
please. Sorry.
doing HR or risk is doing it, how do you evaluate them? Because they're in the same
Exactly.
position.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's why it's good to have multiple people, multiple departments coming into picture that you
Hmm.
may like to say, yes, the money is in HR. Let's do evaluation from a different angle or different person on Daman, while Daman is doing on most of the people. That type has to be done.
Well, on that, believe it or not, we've come to the end of the show.
Oh,
Daman, thank you so much. I thought this was a really interesting topic because a lot of times I've talked about risk management before, and we've talked about looking at threats and different assessments, but never been able to actually look at it from the perspective of insider threats. So this was
yes.
really interesting, and I'm glad that we were
Thank
able
you very much.
to get you on the show to come and talk about this.
I'm happy.
Well, thank you so much, Damon, and everyone watching and listening. Stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.